like right down the middle, right? So if you don't remember what bisect means, it cuts something into two equal parts. Please write that down. So as you read these statements moving forward, if the word bisect just doesn't even register, replace it with cuts into two equal parts. And we are bisecting line segments and we're bisecting angles. We're doing both of those today because we're doing triangles still and we love angles and sides. All right, Bryce, will you read this for us? Just open really fast. It's so noisy. Is it open? Okay. I love how we said line BE bisects line AD. Because in a minute, we're going to be doing it with angles, and people get very confused. So I want everyone to look where AD is. So BE is cutting AD into two equal pieces. BE is cutting AD into two equal pieces. Please make those markings. Are these two equal also from that statement? Not from that statement. Like some of you are saying, but they probably are. They probably are, but we have to only put markings with the statement. Okay, Jared, will you read the second one? So AD is cutting BE into two equal pieces. Let's go make our markings. If BE is now cut into two equal pieces, right here it's like a pizza cutter, whoop, right down the middle. Somebody asked me too, does it matter if I do two dashes or one dash? No, but they have to match each other to show that they're equal. All right, you're set. Will you read the third one? If they bisect each other, then they cut each other into two equal pieces. So I can do my dashes here to show congruence, and my dashes here to show congruence. Now, when you use these on a proof, these will be given to you. So you'll write A, B, and BE bisect each other, and your reason will be given. Then the next line has to say, so let's write one up here. You have to write AC is congruent to CD because they are bisected. You have to write that in your proof. I think that's confusing. A lot of students feel like if they wrote this and they wrote given, that it means the same thing as that. In a proof, it doesn't. So Shaylee, what other statement could I write that I've concluded because of the bisectors on that? What else is congruent? So I did this one, AC and CD. What else on this picture is congruent? Well, since they bisect each other, do you see we have a second set of markings? Yes. Please write that up above. BC is congruent to CE, and the reason why Shaylee knew that is because it told us in the given, it's a definition of bisector. If you ever look in a textbook or at an answer key, it expands it. It says definition of segment bisector. I don't really expect you to write that whole thing. Okay, so once again, when you go to do the proofs, this will be given, but you have to make a congruent statement after that. So, Matthew, on this one, if this was my given, what is the congruent statement that I could write now? What two pieces are congruent? And what would be the reason that I know that? Say it again. You write bisector. You just write the word bisector. Or if you want to be fancy, you can write definition of segment bisector. Excuse me. Okay, let's go back to the first one. So we know that they're bisected. This would be given. Okay, and what congruence statement could we make because that was given to us? Yeah, and why can we conclude that? What's the reason? Yes. Definition of segment bisector. You really can write that if you want. I just write the keyword. It's a bisector. Okay, this is going to come into handy. This is one of the reasons on proof sometimes we get stuck, because we feel like we've already mentioned that, where you have to write the congruence statement that matches it. Okay. We see the word bisect again twice, and then we see a different word here. We see midpoint. So back to Julian. Julian, will you read this one for us? So Julian, what do you think that means, that it's the midpoint? Yes. It also cuts it into two equal pieces. And maybe up here right middle, I keep thinking of the belly button, like it's the middle of your body, the mid. So if X is the middle of WY, these two must be the same length. And again, when you see this in a proof, this would be given to you, so you would write, that was given to me, but you have to follow it up with a congruent statement. And most of us won't not naturally think of that. So Kennedy, what would be the congruent statement that we could write after the given? Yes. Yes. Definition of segment midpoint, I'm just going to write midpoint. Okay. We already did kind of, the picture just looks different. These are very triangle pictures. So Cooper, will you read that middle statement? Put your markings on. See if you can figure out what is it cutting into two equal pieces. This is where people start marking weird stuff. So XZ cuts WY into two equal pieces. So put your markings. Please show your neighbor your markings. Make sure you guys have the same markings. So you three show left and right. Carly, show left and right. Make sure Corbin did his. Kennedy, show left and right. You two compare markings. No. Cody, you don't have any. Oh, you do. Fancy. Okay, here's what I'm seeing. This is cutting this into two equal pieces. Did anybody put anything else on that picture? Yeah. Ooh, I like that. This is the midpoint. I like that. Did anybody do something like this? For some reason, it feels like they ought to be. This probably is true again, like I said a minute ago. These are going to be congruent. This is reflexive. Like we've got a lot of stuff going on in our brains, but we don't have any information that tells us yet that those are congruent. So definitely don't jump to that conclusion too early. Okay, Bronson, what's the congruent statement that I can write? Why do I keep calling? Well, I'm just going in order, and I've gotten to you. I have. Everyone's been called on twice now. I'm not picking on you. That's okay. Ethan, what's a congruent statement that I can write because they told me about this bisector? And what would be the reason? Definition of segment bisector, again, does anyone want to write that whole thing? You really can. Okay, Cody, will you read this for us? Okay, this is the first example that we have of an angle bisector. So please, with your pencil, make the angle big, WZY. This is the angle we are looking at. Maybe think of this like a piece of pizza. And we are cutting it into two equal angles. Put your markings where you think they're going to be. So one will be here, and one will be here. There should not be any other markings from that statement. This is true also because we would have to write the reflexive property. But from what they just told me, lots of people want to come out here again and make dashes on these diagonals, but we just haven't been given that information. So angle WZX is congruent to angle YZX because of the angle bisector. And that's the first angle one we've seen. So if you were thinking something else, I get it. Any questions on those three? Or how we'll use them in a proof? Just make sure if this is something that's given and you put it as given, immediately follow it with a congruent statement. Either two pieces have been congruent or two angles. You can conclude that because it's the definition. Okay, we're going to read these, make the markings, check with our neighbors, and then we'll give you the proof sheet. So, Corbin, will you read this one? Please put your markings. Read it again if you need to. Find BD. It's cutting AC into two equal pieces, so make a markings where those equal pieces are. Compare with your neighbor. Cody and Ethan, are you comparing? Kennedy, you have to compare two ways. Carly, make sure you show Corbin yours. Anything weird? Anything wrong? Okay, there's my two equal pieces. I like also what Carly said to maybe put a dot there that represents the middle. That's kind of cool. If you put dashes anywhere else, we can't conclude that from that statement. Okay, Carly, will you read this one? This is an angle bisector. We are making two equal angles. Please put your markings where you think those two equal angles are because of that statement. Sometimes it helps to emphasize the original angle, and this is going to chop it into two equal pieces. So BD, find BD, it's bisecting angle ABC. Okay, compare markings with your neighbor. Do they match? Are you just coloring yours? Where's the equal angles? I just breathed so loud into the microphone. Okay, I saw a couple people marking the wrong thing, and I saw a lot of people marking the right thing, but I think we caught it, right? So if I'm bisecting this big angle, it's going to create two equal angles here. And I would have to write angle AB. D is congruent to angle DBC. Why? Because of the angle bisector theorem. Or actually, it's called definition of angle bisector. Okay, Hayden, read the last one. Make your markings. Where do those lines go? What line is it dividing into two equal pieces? Elizabeth has given up. She loves angle bisectors. Okay, compare with your buddy. Where did you put those markings? Okay, BD bisects, so bisecting it right here, I've got two equal pieces. All right, when you do your proofs, if you have a bisector or a midpoint in your given, what's the very next thing you have to write? Where did I get to? Miles, what's the next thing I should write in my proof?
Either the two angles or the two lines you can find from that bisector or midpoint?
Yes. I'm going to call that a congruent statement. So we are concluding that something is congruent because we've cut it into two equal pieces. So your congruent statement has to go next. And like Miles said, it might be an angle is congruent to another angle, or it might be a line segment is equal to another line segment. And your reason that you know that will either be because they told you it was a bisector, or because they told you it was a midpoint. Okay, the proofs that I'm going to give you look a little bit different. Look at the pictures. Is there anything given on the picture? They are empty. So what's given then? I'm not sure why we're switching, but the given is in words on this worksheet. So these are your given. So put them on first. BE bisects AD, given. Blah, 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 given. Please then immediately go and draw them on the picture. It's going to be hard to know if you're side angle side if your picture is still empty at the end. So let's see, BE bisects AD. Put my congruent statement, right? That was given. You might have to use the vertical angles. You might need to use reflexive property. You might need to use alternate interior. We just have two new things, midpoints. All right, I think you got it. Actually, I have no idea. I hope you got it. If you get stuck, write in as much as you can. Don't just leave the whole thing blank. Write in the given, write which triangle it's congruent to. It's easier for me to help you if you've written down everything you possibly can